I was born in Seattle, appropriately in the Swedish hospital, and I came to Bob Jones really as a result of the art department. I had a lot of art training through high school. I did a lot of cartooning. As a kid, I really had an interest in becoming an animator, Disney. And my dad, who never could go into Christian work, the Lord prevented him from that. It's a long story, I won't go into that, but he was a very dedicated Christian businessman, and I think he and my mom both prayed all their lives that I would go into full-time Christian work. But I'd won awards for my art. And then I looked around at Christian schools, and in 1947, 48, believe it or not, Bob Jones University had a very credible art department, 3 or 4 teachers. And another major evangelical school that I was considering had only 1 art teacher. So here I came. And I needed to work. I'm in that generation of post-depression babies. We knew how to live simply. And I'd worked for my dad in his meat market. So I went downtown looking for a job, and I didn't have a car, and downtown was a long ways away then. And so, second year, my folks said, "You've got to get a job now." So I went on the stage crew, painting scenery. I mean, I wasn't a scene designer. I was just one of the Indians that slapped paint on them. And so actually, Dr. Bob Jr. and Dr. Bob Sr. had been in our home. My mother likes to tell a story that Dr. Bob Sr. got down on his knees and played with me when I was a baby. I mean, you know, we all don't know whether that happened, but he did come to Seattle because my dad was chairman of a businessmen's group that brought an evangelist to Seattle every year and rented a neutral place where they could have evangelistic meetings. And then Dr. Bob Jr. was, in his younger days, he was a preacher with the Bob Jones Quartet, and they came through. So I had some contact. And then 2 young man, young lady from my church had come to Bob Jones. The young man's name was Bob Jones, by the way. He's now a retired missionary, was in Italy all these years. So I arrived here to be an art major. Well, during the year, the Lord changed my mind. I was in a voice class, and then I got a notice that I was to see the head of the department, and she took me on as a student. And then I got a call slip for a Vesper group in my room. My friends said, "Oh, you're going to be on Vespers every Sunday." I said, "No." Well, they were right, and I was wrong. But so I've been in Rhoda Heaver Auditorium regularly since I was 18 years old. And that's a long time ago. We have a picture, a portrait of me in the auditorium at home, and my kids say, "Dad, when we look at that picture, we can still smell the auditorium." Somehow, Dr. Bob Jr. got the idea that he was going to have me design sets for Rostand, Cyrano de Bergerac. I got this unheralded commission when here I was a sophomore painting scenery, and I didn't know. Some of them told me that, well, he saw a thing that you did that made it into the commencement art contest. I didn't get any awards. Well, I had only seen 2 operas and 2 plays in my whole life by the time I got that commission, and they were both here at Bob Jones. But innocent as I was, I said I would go, you know, I would give it a stab. In fact, I don't think I even saw him directly. I got this note saying, "Would you design some sketches and do some sketches and I'll look them over." That was when Dr. Bob Jr. had a serious case of pleurisy, and he was hospitalized, and then he was at home confined for several months. That's when he wrote the novel, Wine and Morning. So anyway, I did these sketches, and I got a note that I was to go to his house. Here I was, a little sophomore, going to the president's home, and Mrs. Jones was very warm. She welcomed me. I went in, and she said, "Go right into the bedroom." So there was Dr. Bob. Of course, any of you who are watching this who know him know he wouldn't greet a visitor in just his pajamas. No, he had a nice silk bathrobe on. And he said, "Hi, Gus." He said, there was a table there. He says, "Come over here. I'm working this a jigsaw puzzle. I want you to help me." He loved jigsaw puzzles. And I tell people, from that day on, I was helping Dr. Jones work jigsaw puzzles. As I have mentioned, I had planned to be an artist. I didn't know what kind, but in fact, my mother had, and we weren't wealthy people, had put up money so that I could go to art school outside. I took every art class I could take in high school. I was the artist for our school paper. It was a large school, about 1,200 kids. The alumni paper for the school still uses a letterhead that I designed. And I'm kind of proud of that. And I had won some scholastic medals. So I came, every summer the campground where my dad was chairman had a family conference, and one of the last days was a big missionary day. And the conference raised money that day to support missionaries. And that one family conference supported several missionaries full-time. And they, at the end of the service, would make a challenge and ask young people who would come up and dedicate themselves to the Lord to come and join all the returned missionaries and all the retired missionaries at the front for dedication. And as a kid, I sat in the back. I guess I thought the Holy Spirit couldn't get at me there, because I was telling God, you know, I'm to be an artist. This is my gift. Well, that was stupid. There'd been a few more artists like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci that were a lot better than I was. But these struggles are very real to young people, and to even young people in the chapel audience. And when I got here, the Lord just literally pushed me into music. As I say, I started singing, and I went out with a school ministry team when I was a freshman. They don't let freshmen go anymore, and I wasn't any better than any freshman here now, but the Lord just pushed me along. And so the sophomore year I changed to music and started my music major late, but I started. And then they asked me to come back as a graduate assistant to be a dorm supervisor, and I did that, and I worked on a master's degree in church music. And then the second year of my GA-ship, the summer before that, was when all these people left. And when I came back, I was supervising what is now Brokenshire, because there weren't that many students. One floor of it was all couples. And I taught a section of freshman theory, and I taught voice, and I was assistant conductor of the church choir, and I trained a summer ensemble. And other than that, I wasn't very busy, except that year my wife was pregnant, and we had a baby about 3 weeks before commencement, when my master's degree project, which is a one-act opera called The Jailer, was premiered. I had never conducted an orchestra in my life. But I sort of knew what was coming, because back in February I'd had a notice to come to Dr. Bob Jr.'s office, and my whole life went through me. What have I done wrong, And he asked me if I would come back as acting dean, and I said, "Well, Dr. Bob, I'm younger than any faculty member, and I don't know." I said, let me go pray about it, and my wife and I will pray about it. Well, we did come back, and so I had a lot of on-the-job training. I advise our listeners to not lose sight of the past and the messages that the past gives us. We're so up to date. Everything's newer every 5 years now. But the gospel never changes. And if we don't have the heart of the gospel in everything we do, and we lose the burning desire to see people saved, we can have all the fancy productions and all the beautiful things we want. So what we're talking about here today is not just what all these men did, it's what God did. It's what God did through these men.